So hello everyone, I'm Cassandra Donnelly from Creative Passages, and I'm here today in my art studio with some prayer flags that my group has made. These are actually from my church. I'm going to be taking it to my church. And I wanted to share a quick tutorial on how to make a prayer flag. So these are done on a 5 by 8 inch piece of fabric that we decorated with more fabric, paper, ribbons, ephemera, doilies, flowers, buttons, etc., etc. And most importantly, we used words to describe our prayers to the Lord for what we want for ourselves, for our family, for our city, for our nation, for our church. And we did this to bring unity to our group and to our church. We wanted to come together on one accord, and we hung our prayer flags on one cord together. These were made to traditionally hang outside so the wind could blow them in the breeze. They were made to petition God with our heart's desires and requests, and it's almost like a prophetic proclamation by putting them in the flags. Alright, the first step is to gather your materials and to figure out what you want to use as a base for your prayer flag. Generally, they say you want something thinner that can kind of flap in the wind, because traditionally these flags get hung on like a string or cord outside. So with that in mind, normally they're about 5 by 8 inches, which is not really very big. You can kind of see how it fits in my hand there. And then you also need a 3-inch by 5-inch strip of material that you're going to glue on top. So if you're sewing, of course, you would sew it, but I'm going to present a no-sew version of this just because I'm not a good sewer. I just got a sewing machine. I'm excited to use it, but I don't know how to do it well enough to show you. So I'm going to do a no-sew version. Okay, so it helps to have this cut out ahead of time. Now, some people say to just make this a little bit longer and then kind of fold it over to make that loop, but I think it's easier to do it separate, and I recommend that you glue that first before you start adding your fabrics and things in your writing, because otherwise you might forget and then you might have some writing up here and end up covering it up. Okay, so you want to gather fabrics. You don't necessarily need other fabrics. You could just use paint for all of this. I'll just say that I've watched about 3 separate videos, and one person put gesso over her canvas and then just painted with acrylics. Now, I've done a little bit of research, and it's not necessary to gesso to use the acrylics on the fabric. It will work and it will stay. However, if you plan to wash it, then you might want to, well, fabric paint will always be better than acrylic paint for fabric, but acrylic paint will still work. And what you could do is mix it in with acrylic medium, and that will make the paint more flexible so that it'll, kind of bend with your fabric a little bit better than if you didn't have the acrylic medium. So I'm probably going to be using the fabric paints. I went out and got some, doing this with my groups tomorrow, and so we're going to be using fabrics, fabric paint, and then you can buy little embellishments as well. This is like some spangles that I got, and just in case anybody did want to sew, I'm going to allow sewing as well if people want to sew. There's some needles that can hold things down, and this is just some flower, well, they look like little flowers, so you can sew that on or glue that on. And I love the puffy paint, the glitter one. I got some of that. Oh, and I also got some fabric markers. You can mark directly on it, or you could always just use a Sharpie. A Sharpie will work, or you could use some Posca pens, which I also got. And then you can have some buttons on hand to sew on if you want, or some decorative cords or trims. You can have some like embroidery threads that you can maybe use to decorate. If you're a sewer, you could sew, you know, an embroidery on there. Now, you could even put some washi in there if you wanted to. So you can mix papers with your fiber if you want. There's no rule that says you can't do that. And like I said, you can put regular paper on with your fabrics too. And don't forget, you can also use some lace. So I got some lace here, and then I've got some, you know, just cut strips of fabric as well. So there's lots of ways you can do this. I watched one person put some kind of spray on it. I do have distress sprays, so that's an option that you could do, although I'm not going to bring that with my group. It's a little too messy for where we're meeting at. So we're going to go ahead and do the second step, which is to glue this. This is going to be your flap where your cord goes through, or you could use a little stick or something like that. We're going to put ours together on a cord. So actually what I want to do is lay this down and then put the glue on here first, just on this bottom portion like that. Then I'm going to lay this right on top of it. And then I'm going to put more glue here. And then lay this down on top. Now, this material is the same on both sides, but if you're using a different kind of material, like this, then you realize that one side's a little bit different. So when you go to do this flap, make sure you have the correct part out front. Well, if you wanted to, you know, not look like that. So I prepared a bunch of these things ahead of time for people to just kind of pick what color they want and then decorate it. All right, so now fabric tack works well, or fabric fuse works well. I kind of like this because it comes out a little bit more thin and even, whereas this comes out in big clumps and it tends to go fast. But fabric tack will dry faster than the fabric fuse will. But I find if you're patient, the fabric fuse does work well. Okay, so now we're just going to decorate it, and that's the hard part. So I know that's the fun part. I just don't know what I want. So you could consider cutting out a bunch of squares ahead of time to try to figure out what you want. I'm gonna just kind of cut out some squares. Now I watched one video where she sewed all her scraps together. She didn't even have this part, but since we're gluing it down, I think it'll be better to have, you know, a piece that you're starting with. Since I don't really know yet what I want to do, rather than glue it right away, I'm just going to kind of cut up some pieces, and then I can always cut them, you know, smaller if I want to, or if I need a bigger piece, I can go back and get a bigger piece. And then I'm going to arrange them, and I'll probably do a little bit of fabric paint on here too. So I don't know what I want yet, so I'm just gonna, like I said, cut some of this stuff up. And I did cut some of this down. They were like huge pieces. I'm thinking I'll put this on top since it's see-through, and I love that idea. And because sometimes you can see the fabric glue stick out like this. This one's more dry, but what you could do is take some yarn or lace or something like that, or even paint, and just cover up that portion. All right. So think about maybe how the colors are going to look together, if that matters to you. I kind of like when things fray, and I'm not very good at cutting things either. This one's also a very thin piece of fabric. I really don't like the way that top looks. Now, somebody told me in one of the videos that if it's good material, you can, I don't think I'm cutting it any better. You can, you could just cut a little bit and then rip it like that, and it will fray evenly down the line. But I tried it with this and it didn't work. So, but I can cover that up. So there, you've got options if you're not good at cutting fabric, like I am not good at cutting fabric. All right. You know, this is a nice manageable size, so it's not very overwhelming to do something so small. This is almost like felt. It's nice and soft. I do want some of this corduroy right here. Some of these materials I got from my mom. She passed, but after she passed, I got like some of her stash. And so that whenever I use these fabrics, it's like extra special to me. And while you're decorating, you can be thinking about what you want to say. Like, what do you want this to express? It's a prayer flag, so it represents a prayer that you have to God. And the prayer could be for yourself, it could be for your family, it could be for your city or your nation. We're going to use our prayer flags for ourselves, but also for our city, our church, and our nation. And we're going to do a little bit of like worship and intercessory prayer as we're making this. This will be part of like our prayer. Now, I tend to be cutting it in squares, but I saw other people do like diagonal strips and stuff. And this is another one I got from my mom. I got this one for my mom, and this one for my mom, and that one for my mom, and that one. And then these three I bought. And then this one here I got from the thrift store. I was thinking of, yeah, this is cute. That's another place you could get material from. You can like even look at old clothes and look at it from the perspective that maybe you could use part of it in your journal, or you know, for your prayer cloth. Now this was for my mom too. I don't know how much I want that or not, but it's gonna be a small piece if I use it. And then I've got this tool right here that I can use. It's kind of interesting. So far, oh, and I got lace that I wanted to use my lace, and I want to use this cord right here. Now I just have to figure out how all this fits. Now I just have to figure out how I want to put this together.
I don't want to glue anything down yet. I just want to get a rough idea of where things are going to fit, how I want to arrange them, etc. So I'll just be playing around, moving these fabrics and materials around just so I can figure out what I like. Alright, once you've roughly figured out where you want to place things, then you can start gluing it down. If you want to be absolutely accurate about how you figured it out, you can take a photograph of it, like with your phone, so you'll have a reference. I didn't do that. And how I glued it changed slightly, but that's okay. You can change your mind. You just sort of want to get a rough idea. And then you can start to glue it. I'm using the fabric fuse glue, and so I'm just going to glue all these these fabrics on to the best of my ability, and I am trying to fray some of the edges, which I figured out will compensate for the fact that I can't cut that well, so I'll put that little frayed decorative edge on there and make it nicer in my opinion. Also, you see here, I'm also starting to add in some ribbons and things. I'm in lace. I'm mixing it in with the materials. You're going to also add yarn and trims in addition to the ribbons and lace. You can make this as cute as you want to. The sky's the limit. You can use all kinds of embellishments. I generally like to do the flat embellishments, like the flat yarn and the ribbons, before I add bulkier things such as the buttons. You see the buttons now I'm beginning to add. And I like to sometimes put
maybe I'll put a giant butterfly right here
or ribbons underneath the buttons as well. Think about adding stickers or ephemera. You can get a lot of ephemera from Temu, like little butterflies or little flowers. They're not always stickers. Sometimes you just glue it on. Or maybe stamps, or maybe labels and things like that. Maybe just like a little collage piece. You can get all kinds of things that you can add, and some things that you maybe hand drew and made, or maybe you drew it like a different time. You can print it out. You can print things different sizes, so maybe you drew a little flower and you can print that out and add it. You can even like print things on like labels that you can then peel off and turn into stickers. So those are just some ideas for you. So you can continue to watch me as I decorate this and add all the embellishments. Now that I have my decorations done, I can add my prayers. Posca pens and permanent markers are a good way to write your prayers. I thought it was easier to write it on a separate piece of paper or fabric because you could make sure everything fits well and then decide where you want to place it. And also, you see how that word peace, it can be more noticeable on a different color than if I would just write it on top of that ribbon. So that's the way that we approached it. But of course, you could do it however you want. I just thought it was easier to do all of the words last. Just adding glittery fabric paint here just for an embellishment to make that butterfly sparkle. And now I'm adding just more tiny little fabric strips just for those extra touches, just to make it cute. So for this part, you really want to add words or phrases of your prayers. I just chose to make it really simple with one word. But this is what you want to petition God for. And maybe you want it for yourself, or like I said, for your family, or for your city, or for your church, for your nation, or I kind of combined all of them together for this. So here you see it outside. This is my own personal one. This is our group as we're working on it. This is one of the prayer flags that were made. This is another one. This is yet another one. These prayer flags turned out gorgeous in my opinion. Here's another one. She was 10 years old. And here's another one. And yeah, this one is my very personal one for family. And then here you see them hung all together. So thank you for stopping by and watching this video. I hope you're going to try it and make a prayer flag. They were a lot of fun. If you like this video, don't forget to actually like it. I would love your feedback, your comments, share it even, and consider subscribing. I'm going to have lots of other great content. Bye everybody and be blessed.